Yeah, one of my favorite things to start with, Armin, in terms of a discovery process with my consulting clients or if I'm leading a workshop,
Sure.
is to create a map of the employee journey.
Hmm.
Let's map from the first time an employee hears about our organization, whether it's a job posting, a career listing, or they just say, that seems like an interesting company I want to go
And how
work
many
for.
companies have that in place, actually? Or do you probably have to do it
Yeah.
from scratch?
Yeah, we do it from scratch. What we do
Okay.
is we bring people from the entire organization into the room. My request for all of my consulting clients is I want a representative from every level and every department of the organization in the room for the day. That's the requirement of doing work with me as a consultant. We bring everybody in. If you want to bring more than one from each role, that's great. Have as many in the room as you want. And we map out the whole journey from there up until the 8th phase in the employee journey, the advocate phase, where you have a raving fan singing your praises far and wide. So this is an employee who's writing reviews on Glassdoor. When you have a position open in your company, they're referring the smartest people they ever worked with and getting them to submit their resumes to be considered for the role. That's the advocate, right? That's where we're going to.
Right.
And we map out this entire journey. And what I will tell you, Armin, is having done this on all 7 continents with thousands of different organizations, what we have found is that I have never had an instance where one person could map the entire journey from beginning to end and tell me all the touch points.
Not even the HR department. Well, the HR
Not even.
departments are questionable nowadays anyway.
I would say in many ways, with all due my respect to our friends in the HR departments, there's been questions for a long time. But part of that is because of the way the organization treated the HR department. Look at this. We have a chief sales officer. We have a chief technology officer. We have a chief financial officer. We have a chief information officer. And then we have a director of HR.
Right.
The very structure of our business said we care about this less than we care about everything else. Now, for some of the folks listening, they're like, Joey, there's now chief people officers and chief, human resources officers. I get that, but those are the exception to the rule. In most organization, it's still a director of HR or a manager of HR. Until we elevate that role and its status to be on par with the C-suite, if not, I would posit on par with the CEO, we're going to have problems with our employee engagement and our employee retention.
And now we mapped it out. So we mapped out the whole journey. We know the touch points. We know what we do at like each touch point. Like, what then? Like, so now we have an assessment. Like, what's the next step?
In most scenarios, Armin, we have to take a pause then because most of the senior leaders want to vomit because they can see how bad the situation already is. Most of
Mm.
the folks that are responsible for individual divisions are saying, I didn't know that was happening over there. I had no idea this was happening over there. So now there's a higher level of connection and empathy to the role that everyone plays in employee experience. What I think is interesting about from my work in customer experience, for years, I would go in and do keynote speeches and workshops, and I would ask a question. It was kind of a trick question. Many speakers will do this, and they'll say, raise your hand if you're in customer service or customer experience. And you'd have the call center reps raise their hand or the account reps raise it, and no one else would raise their hand. And then I'd say, actually, everyone in this company should have their hand up right now because you're all involved in customer experience. You're all involved in customer service, whether you directly interface with a customer or not. Take that same analysis and apply it to employees. If I were to go into an organization and say, raise your hand if you're involved in employee experience, all the people in the HR department raise their hand and no one else does. And yet we know that the experience I have with my coworkers, with my immediate boss, with my direct reports, with the people in my department contributes to my experience as an employee. And not only is it the experiences that I'm having with them, but it's the experiences that they're having with me. What's it like to work with me? That's contributing to whether they like to come to work or not. When we combine those things, we quickly realize that everyone's involved in employee experience, but most people have never had any training in it. Everyone's involved in the employee interactions, but very few organizations are having conversations about how are we creating interactions and touch points that create personal and emotional connection. What are we doing to actually build this team, to strengthen our culture, to build a bond. It's not enough to say we're going to have lunch free on Friday. It's not enough to say we're going to have 2 foosball games and a video game in the corner that you can play on a break. We need to go deeper than that. And that's the opportunity that's available to every employer, regardless of industry, regardless of location in the world.